Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, whenever you are watching this. Welcome to Power Platform today. We have another fantastic show lined up today and a brilliant guest. I will get him to introduce himself in a moment. So welcome along. Thank you for being here and let us get started. Hello, Andrew, you are live. Say hello to everyone and introduce yourself. So this is, I'll quickly just say, at least this is Andrew Bibby. So over to you, Andrew.
I'll try and live up to the hype. Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Bibby. I'm from the UK. I guess we're going to talk about this, but I'm very much involved in Power Platform Dynamics 365 community, and yeah, it's been one of my passions now for, I don't know, 12, 14 years. I actually can't remember how long, but it's been a long time. So yeah, glad to be on. This is my first, I think, live stream, certainly like of this sort of format anyway.
Really? First one? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm honored.
I've done a few podcasts, but not live stream. So yeah.
Yeah, because
Looking forward to it.
have you done the speaking sort of gigs at any of the Microsoft conferences, like Extreme, all those other ones? Because I know they do like a live format, but it's pre-recorded, isn't it?
I have, and actually now you mention it, yeah, I did a couple of years ago. I did Microsoft Build. Like, they did some kind of regional events. I think maybe not last year, the year before. That was from Reading, and that was like a live broadcast with a few other people, Joe Griffin and Trisha Sinclair and Alison Mulligan. So yeah, that was fun. So I've done that, but I've not done one of these.
Yeah, because I've seen that in the past. I know that some of those they pre-record them and they just live stream them because it allows the speakers to also chat at the same time. The first time I watched, the first time I watched people do that, I was like, that's not live because there's no way they're talking and typing at the same time to the chat.
Yeah.
That is not easy to do.
Magic.
That's my ultimate aim for this, is at some point to have an editor. Oh, I would love to have someone live controlling the stream. So that I don't have to press the buttons.
Switching to people, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get there when I have like 3 guests on and multiple people involved.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. You said sort of 12, 14 years you think you've been involved in user groups, but how long have you been working with Dynamics then?
I started back in 2007. So quite a while ago, back before it was called Dynamics, back in those old days. Yeah, I started out as a developer. Like when I left university, I went and did developer stuff, and then I moved into like web development. I wasn't very good, but I fumbled my way through that, and then I got a contract for a company in the UK that is now owned by Enhance.
Okay.
So back in the day, it was a little software company, and they did this CRM product. They did a couple of different CRM products, and they brought me in to do some like web development essentially, and yeah, did that and kind of got really interested in what CRM3 offered back in the day, and some of the stuff that I just used to do on project over and over again, like security layer and database layer, and it was really easy to build tables and stuff. And so I kind of thought, well, and at the same time it was around sort of CRM4 was coming out, and Microsoft had just announced that they were going to be in that for the long haul. I think it was some kind of like $1 billion investment that was going into it, and I thought, well, why don't I try and stick with this? I quite like doing it, and then I'll stick with that and see if I can kind of make a career out of it. And that was it, and that I've done just that ever since.
So
and then it's obviously morphed into all kinds of other things like Power Platform along the way.
Yeah, I was talking to both Masonda and Keegan in previous episodes around people falling into this, and I certainly stumbled into it. I mean, I technically did do computer science at uni, but that doesn't mean that I actually did computer science at uni. I was there, and I kind of survived some of it. But it was never a career choice to get to this. I kind of just stumbled my way through it. So it sounds, I would say that you're closer to actually having it as a career goal because you'd made the decision to stick with it because you saw a future with it.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah. I think that's really common though. Like nobody. I think this was Auntie that said this. Auntie Pudgeon.
Mhm.
Like nobody kind of at school says, "Oh, I want to go and build business applications," and makes it their career. And I think even more so now that we're in sort of a low code world, and I see a lot more people from diverse backgrounds coming into Power Platform in particular,
Mhm.
and also some of the other Dynamics products as well. So yeah, I think it's one of those that you sort of move into if you come across it in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 that makes sense. So 2007, you're saying was kind of when you were getting into it, and if my maths is right, let's give it 14 years. That means 2011, roughly, you got involved in user groups. What got you into user groups? Like, how did you fall into that
yeah,
world? Because as far
yeah,
as long as I can remember, I've known you as very involved in user groups, CRM user group, and
yeah.
everything before that.
Well, it's actually linked to that first job. So coming from a background of like .NET development, I was used to there being like a community and like forums
Hmm.
that you could go and ask questions and that type of stuff. And then I came into Dynamics and obviously hitting problems and stuff like that. And I realized that the community was just tiny in comparison. There was
Yeah.
people like Yuka who were blogging and some people that like really early days, Ferridan as well had a website. And so there was literally like a dozen places where you go and try and find answers and some forums that weren't very good and that kind of thing. And I remember this is all Neil's fault. And I'm totally blanking on his name now.
Parkhurst.
No, no, that's what I keep thinking of. Australian
Ah,
Neil.
Benson.
Oh God. Hmm?
Neil Benson.
Benson. Yes, God, I
The
had
man
one
of
of those like
muscles.
mental
I just saw a
blocks then.
picture on LinkedIn the other day. Have you seen his biceps?
Is he
He
ripped?
definitely
No,
works out.
yeah, he's fairly sporty, isn't he?
Mhm.
But he originally started off a user group around that time in no, not Paddington, Reading. And he held it a few times, I think, in Reading, like Microsoft, in Reading, and it kind of fell away a bit. But it was around that time that I was getting into it. And then a few years later, I started to see that kind of spring up again. And it was Adam Vero and Scott Duro and Paul Ince were running essentially the CRM user group.
Mhm.
So they kind of resurrected it. And it was under the brand that was like a worldwide brand, which was CRM UG. Anyway, I went along to it because basically you go along to these things because you want to talk about this stuff. Because the way I was working, I couldn't really talk to anybody else about and geek out about it because there's nobody else around me that cared really. And so you go along to user groups to like meet people who have similar mindset, and actually. This is really going off on a tangent, but I knew Scott in that previous life when I was a web developer. I did a contract for a company just outside Oxford. Scott was there at the same time. And then he left and I left, and we kind of met again like years later at the user group. And he used to have a ponytail at that time as well, if you can believe that. Yeah, and so I went along. I was really like. It's back when I was really I had massive imposter syndrome. I was really quite shy. I don't think I spoke to anybody the first time I went. Just sort of hid back and went to the sessions. And then the more I went over time, the more I thought I wanted to get involved. And I approached Adam, and he was like, "Yeah, get involved. No problem at all." And I was still a bit. I still couldn't see myself actually getting involved in getting up in front of people in that way. And so I said to him, well, why don't I organise like a bit of a social the night before? Because people travel down, like people travelling into town or to Reading, and I could just organise a bit of a social, and we'll go for dinner and have a couple of drinks. And that's what I did, and it kind of at least. We had a couple of bumpy times when nobody turned up, but a few of the times we had a really good group of people the night before. And it's meeting them in that real like social context. Yeah. You can have a drink and just get to know people a little bit. And And that gives you that way in the next day, because then you can say, oh, yeah, we met yesterday, and we've got a way to start talking to people. So that was my sort of cheat code, really, because I was cripplingly shy and, really couldn't sort of put myself out there. And actually, in doing this community work and working with the user groups, that's really changed my life in that way. Like I can get up and in front of 100 people, not worry about what I'm going to say particularly. Not that they don't care, but it's really been a massive growth thing for me, and really sort of helped develop my confidence and lots of so many benefits to it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I started off doing that, and then I gradually was persuaded to speak, do a session, and then that was it. Really. I kind of got the bug from there, and then started getting involved in organising more and doing more conferences, and till where I get to today.
So that's interesting, because another part that I know of you, or in the part that you play in the community, is the quiz master. So it's interesting to see that you, even early days of user group, you were organizing the fun elements, let's say. I mean, if you're talking meals beforehand, was the quiz kind of a natural evolution of that concept? Where did the quiz actually come from?
No, it wasn't that, but it was like I mean I was just trying to think of things that I do where I mean, meet people with a bit less sort of pressure situation.
Right.
And
I don't know, being the host is not less pressure.
No, that kind of it started out. I don't know if you saw a post on LinkedIn by Janet Robb a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, where she was saying about an event she organised in Dublin, which I think was
8 years ago.
2018.
Yep. 2017, she said, was the first one, the D365 Dublin.
Yeah. Maybe it was one after that. I don't know. Anyway, I went to that.
Yeah.
And I was already into community stuff at that point. And I had this idea for a session, which was basically like a quiz, like a power platform dynamics quiz. And so we did it there, and it was good fun. Like, we just did it like a normal session during the day. It was in the afternoon, so it was kind of kicking back, and I bought some beers and snacks along that thing. And I think we had about 20 people, maybe less, when we had two teams, and I basically projected it and had a load of questions. And it seemed to be fun, and I really enjoyed doing it. And then the next time, I can't remember the next time I did it, but that's the first time I think we did the evening. It might have been Scottish Summit 2020, the one that just before COVID. And then that sort of took it to the next level. And I got the jacket. I think I got the jacket at that point.
I think you did. That's certainly when I first remember seeing it.
No, actually I'm missing one. I did it in the Nordic Summit as well. I think that was the next time I did it, and that was a bit bigger again. And it was like the after show kind of thing. And it was in Sweden, it was in Stockholm. Anyway, bigger crowd. And I suddenly found myself like, if I put this on, people would come to it, and it became a sort of bigger thing. And one time, like particularly at that Scottish Summit, there were about 120 people crammed in this room trying to hear me. I was doing questions, and it was so loud and everything. And then it just sort of grew from there, and suddenly like South Summit, like we'll get you a really big room, we'll get you 160 people, whatever it was, and then there's a stage, and then there's AV and everything, and suddenly went from being this tiny little thing, and gradually, very quickly for me, into I'm hosting an evening for 3 hours. Trisha and Keegan, we're doing loads of stuff. In front of 150 people. It was a bit crazy, but it hit at just the right time. I felt like they were able to do it. I was able to get in front of people, and not that it was a bit nerve-wracking, but I felt like I'd sort of got enough confidence to be able to do that.
Nice. Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, when I see the three of you on doing that, at this point, it does seem like a pretty well-produced show, because there's.
How many have you been to?
I think it's 3 I've been to, but it's
really?
Yeah, but it's from the audience perspective. Absolutely, it looks that way. But at the same time, I also know a little bit behind the scenes, because I know at one of them, I think it was the one in. I think it must have been Scottish Summit, one of the ones there. Unless it was down south in Red. I can't remember, to be honest, but I do remember when Keegan was walking the floor with the mic, and at one point she came over to me, and she was, because we were already working together at that point, and she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? And then between that sort of moment of just sort of clarity of what the hell am I doing, to the next moment of, and who have we got over here? What is your thoughts on the last question? And she just like snapped back straight into hostess mode. It was just, it was amazing to watch.
Like we're a great team because I'm a bit of a control freak in that I want to write questions and sort of control the show almost, but I can't do that, as I learned early on. I can't do that and talk and run the quiz at the same time. And I can't really do the setup stuff. And Trisha does that brilliantly. And she can sort of control things when I'm just wandering around talking rubbish. And then Keegan's got this background. I don't know if you know about that, but she's got this background of being a bit of an event host. Like she used to get up on stage in front of thousands of people and like introduce people and that kind of thing. So yeah, and so she's perfect for doing crowd work and like wandering around. And then we all just sort of do different bits together, which is great. So they'll do some questions and we'll sort of, I'll mess something up and inevitably I'll fix it in the background. And so yeah, I think we're going to do, we're due to do it again this year at South Coast Summit. And we're aiming for that to be the biggest and best yet. Just need to get short wood. It's a ton of work. This is the thing people don't. Like we try to make it as good. This is the other thing. As it grew, we tried to make it better and like more professional. Yeah. And we messed a few things up along the way by like copying questions and stuff and like from previous years. But honestly, we put a huge amount of effort into making that quiz interesting and challenging and fun and funny if we can. And it takes a long time to put it together. And normally we do it very last minute like we did at South Coast last year. I was right questions on the day. It was definitely, every time I come around, so we're definitely not doing this next year, and then we do it again. Because the time gets away from us. But we do actually put a huge amount of effort into that. Hopefully being a fun experience for people. So I'm glad people like it. I'm not sure how long we can carry on with it, because it's become its own sort of monster of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're doing it at South Coast this year. I'm not sure how much longer we'll do it after that. If at all, no commitment from anybody after that.
Oh, that would be an end of the year when that finishes.
But we're going to try and do some new things this year, and we need a bit more budget and a bit more time to prepare as well. But it's really fun. Really love doing it. We really love spending that time with Keegan and Trisha as well. We're a really tight little team. And it's like to have that experience with them is really special as well.
Nice. Excellent. So if we sort of step back a little bit again into the sort of speaker side of things, you said it took a little bit of cajoling to get you to the point of doing speaker sort of stuff. It's interesting for me. I jumped straight into speaking, but I share that similarity of awkwardness in a room of strangers, let's say. So for me, I'm definitely there's an element of social awkwardness to me, especially in that kind of thing. I just feel very uncomfortable just walking up to someone. And I think a lot of people in our community do have that. There's definitely an element. So, and I absolutely 100% agree that it's nice to have something as a vehicle to do that. Mm-hmm. So for me, in the past, I've hosted a flat party, nothing to do with the platform, but when I did that, I felt brilliant because I was the host. There was a purpose, and I could go around and I could introduce people. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me an excuse to jump into a conversation and say, the classic, have you met Ted? It's just that kind of, it gave me that confidence, that role to do that. And so for me getting involved in the community, I did it through the speaking role pretty much right from the get-go. Because when I went to D365 Dublin in the second one, so that would have been 2018. And I went there to actually try and get a job. But while I was there, I met Mark. Mark and Ian were there, along with Claire Carmichael, and I somehow struck up a Twitter conversation with them. And through that, I said I'd be interested in getting involved in a Scottish Summit type thing, because they were talking about it at that point before the event. And when talking to them, they were looking for speakers, and I was like, I'll speak. I could do that. And so that's how I got into it. So as soon as I did that, it meant that I was involved in the speakers group. And that was that smaller group. It's not a whole conference of 350 people that I don't know. It's 20 or 30 people in a green room. So it's a much smaller, more intimate situation, kind of like the meal. So it's a way that I got to know a few people and got connected in. And that helped with my nerves, because then from the next conference, I could go up to people like yourself, to Chris and these others that are already well established. And I feel I have a connection because I was a speaker previously. So that was my route in, was to dive straight into speaking.
I think I was so scared of I was scared of getting up in front of people and talking. And I was scared of that imposter syndrome thing of like somebody's going to ask me a question I don't know the answer to, and I'm going to sort of go to pieces. So that's why it took me quite a while to kind of get comfortable with a topic that I felt like I could answer some questions on, even though it was my day job. But that's a good point. And I wouldn't have done that because I was too afraid I might get in front of people. But it's that aspect of like just having a connection as well. And what I would say as well is that I've said this before about the quiz. It's like this person that does the quiz is somebody it's just this guy I play on TV. It's not like it's like a persona, right? And that's a little bit the same with speaking. Is that, and even to the extent of like going up to somebody and saying hello when you're in a crowd, or you're in a lobby or something like that. At an event, I kind of have to. I take the approach of like disassociate myself with that action and just say do it. And then switch off part of my brain that says that's screaming at me, saying, no, I can't go talk to them. And you just kind of go do it, and then it's absolutely fine. And then you realise you do that a few times. It's fine to go and talk to people you don't know. So the whole thing is like speaking per quiz. For me, it's like fake it to make it. Just switch off part of your brain, which I'm somehow able to do, that is telling you not to do it, and then just do it anyway. So, yeah.
I think that there's a massive part to that. It's about putting yourself in that position to have that confidence, exactly as you say, and whatever works for you is the way to do that. But I can't understate the benefit it's had to my role and what I do and getting jobs and going through. I think that there's a massive part to that. It changes. It's quite a lot. They say that in that position. Some of the best way to learn something is to actually teach it. Exactly. And I feel like presenting's a lot like that. And whatever works for you, if you can stand up and present. But I can't understate. And I take it the other way as well. So I was to my role. I definitely am concerned about people asking questions I don't know the answer to. Getting jobs, but I learned pretty early on that getting jobs. One of the best things I can do in that situation, it changes quite a lot. They say that honestly, some of the best way to learn. It doesn't feel comfortable, but it's good to say. And I feel like I don't actually know that. That's a really interesting question. If you can stand up, let me go find out. Does anyone else? And I take it the other way. I've done that before, and that actually it works out quite. I definitely am concerned about these questions I don't know the answer to. But I learned pretty early on.
I take the same approach.
One of the best things I can do in that situation is
to be able to do that as well.
It doesn't feel comfortable, but it's good to say, I don't actually know that. That's a really interesting question. Let me go find out. Does anyone else in the room? I've done that before, and that actually works out quite nicely. Level of confidence.
Also, the thing that struck me that from the get-go of me attending these community events is how accepting people are and how welcoming and non-judgmental they are. And if you sit in, if you're sitting in a session and a demo doesn't work and the person on stage is dying, nobody's like, oh God, why is this Joker? Everybody's been there or they've, had a similar experience, and everybody's so sort of welcoming and accepting of anybody that's kind of on whatever stage of the journey that they're on in speaking or community involvement. I find that, most people, actually, I'm struggling to think of anybody that is not super supportive. And I think I kind of sum it up as supportive. And that's one of the reasons I kept coming back, is because it's such a welcoming, supportive community. And hopefully, we can engender that as well and encourage other people to come to events too.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
yeah,
The community
definitely. Yeah.
only stays a community. It is a community. It's a successful community if people are welcome and aren't
Roll BT.
clicky or, causing any problems. It's all part of the social contract.
Okay.
And on that note, we're going to switch over to the VT. We've been chatting. I'm going to roll my video. We're going to watch this. Exactly. We're going to watch this together, and then we'll discuss a total topic shift. And we'll come back. Well, I say that. Well, you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to set you up with that. And I believe there was some audio issues that we had earlier on, which I'm hoping I've sorted. So thank you very much, David. Hello. Today I am going to introduce the XRM Toolbox, and I'm going to have a look at a tool that is in there. We're just going to pick the latest and see what we can do with it. For anyone that hasn't used the XRM Toolbox, this is really for you, but for me, it's a really great highlight of what the community is around the Power Platform and has been for some time. The XRM Toolbox itself has been around for well over 14 years. I mean, I certainly used it in 2011 when I started this. I believe it was earlier than that. I haven't looked into it, but certainly it's been around for a long time. And for anyone that isn't aware, it's essentially a set of tools that are available, that are developed by people within the community for administering and using the Power Platform as a whole. So it's a very impressive tool. So let's get started. So first of all, how do you get it? You can go to xrmtoolbox.com, and just go to the homepage, download the latest, and that'll give you a zip file, and you can extract that into a folder and run the application from there. So I've already done that because this is only a short video, and I'll load that up here. Once you have got it, you start on the start page here. I'm not going to go through the ins and outs of how to use the tool. You can work that out, but I'll show a few little things here. So I'm already connected to an environment right now. And what I want to do is I want to go to my tools library. So I don't currently have any tools installed. I'm going to go to the tool library, and I'm going to find the latest tool that has been installed. So by default, this is sorted by name. You can see here there are a lot of tools. I don't actually know how many there are. It definitely has a list somewhere, but I'm going to sort this by date instead. And this one appears to be the most recently released, as we can see there, 18th. So that is today. So let's open that up. So let's install that and see what this is. So this is how you get any tool. You find the tool you need, you install it, and then you run it. There are different tools for the same thing. So it's worth trying a few different tools to get to one that does what you need or that you trust or various other things. Keep in mind that this is released by individuals within the community. Some tools are going to be better than others. That's just the reality of the fact. I would also caution, be careful what you're doing. Stick to things that you understand and don't just use every tool under the sun, because you never really know exactly what they're doing. So focus on using what you can and what you understand. That's my cautionary tale, at least. So I've installed that. If I go back to tools now, and then search for that workflow. Was it this one? Yes, workflow enabler. I'm going to open that up. So click it. Now it's started. So again, every tool is slightly different. So this is essentially an unboxing. So I've now run it. It's connected as a user. It's telling me that this plugin allows you to manage workflows and Power Automate flows. That's interesting. Feature requests and contributions. Okay, so they're asking for some assistance. So there's some links there. We'll go back to that maybe. So I'm going to load my workflows and see what happens. So it wants me to select a solution, and that's cool. I'm going to select this one. All right, okay, cool. So we've got a number of different workflows, cloud flows, active, non-active, so I can activate or deactivate. That is interesting. Wonder what happens if I just deactivate. I'm going to assume that just simply deactivates the flow. It is not owned by myself, as you can see, so okay. Oh, that's weird. I didn't expect to have a solution picker a second time. I'm going to close that, see what happens. All right, so there's my first comment. It's not refreshed, so I don't actually see the latest. I wonder if that's why the pop-up appeared a moment ago. Let me try loading the workflows again. Okay, so there you go. So now it's showing us that, and it is showing as modified. Interesting. All right, well, that's a quick little tool. I'd be interested to know why this is necessary, since you can do this in the interface quite easily. Maybe if you've got a lot of that. Oh, okay, there's quite a few different ones. Okay, that could be quite interesting. That could be quite useful. Bulk managing workflows can be quite tricky, and it looks like you can select multiple. Nice, okay. So that's a workflow, classic workflow, not a flow. Let's see if this works, because if this does deactivate, that can be useful, because if I remember correctly, you can only deactivate a flow, a workflow, if you own it, from what I remember anyway. It's been a while. Cool, that's a nice, simple enough tool. Got some nice results down here. Yeah, I don't necessarily like having to select the solution every time to reload the results, but that is a very quick run through of a single tool within the XRM toolbox. I definitely, if you've not used this and you administer an environment within the Power Platform or you develop, get this tool, get used to it, understand it. Simplest thing is go to the tools section and look for what it is you need. So let's say you want a diagram tool. Sorry, not tools. Go to tool library, and then from in here, let's look for diagram. And there you go. So I can see there's a whole bunch of different diagramming tools. So there's the UML diagram generator, which is a very good tool. We've got this ERD Visio builder. There's a flow to Visio. There's a lot of very interesting tools in this space. But that's it. So you install those, try them, see what happens. Highly recommend doing that as an approach. So yes, whistle stop tour. Hopefully that was useful. Thank you very much. Hello, welcome back. So that was the XRM Toolbox, a very, very quick intro to the tool for anyone that hasn't come across it. Now, I'm assuming lots of people have. It's a very, very useful tool. But one of the things I really wanted to raise there was it's another aspect of the community. So you talked about, Andrew, the forum side of things and the knowledge sharing. But that's the other part that I've noticed very active within this community is the development of tools. And Microsoft actively encourages it. I mean, if you look at the Ribbon Workbench, that's a really good example where, as long as I can remember, it's documented in Microsoft documentation and has been as a recommended approach to modifying the ribbon. And that's going back many, many years. So what are your thoughts?
Microsoft didn't want to build the right.
Well, they got there eventually, although they've only half got there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on their XRM toolbox? I'm assuming you're an active, avid user.
I mean, it's a great segue back to what we were talking about earlier. Like when I started out, and you mentioned there about like how long it's been around. I want to say it's been around for as long as I've been doing it. So back in 2007, because definitely. Maybe 2008, I was using XRM Toolbox because it satisfied some of those silly things like updating security roles sort of en masse or user settings or the view layout replicator, where you could sort of copy a view layout across different views.
Yeah.
So Tangi built those tools, and I think there was probably about a dozen tools when I started using it, and then he added that ability to build your own, kind of extend it, and then it kind of grew and grew and grew from there. So now it's completely different beast. But yeah, I use it commonly. I wouldn't say I do so much configuration anymore, but whenever I do, I end up breaking out XRM Toolbox, yeah, because there's always a tool to do something. Well, most of the time, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. And absolutely, like I've been like you, sort of singing the praises of it since then, and getting people to use it. Because even things like user admin and more of that sort of system admin stuff simplifies so much of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not just for makers, people building stuff.
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't. I would say I'm quite cautious in the use of it because I have been burnt in the past with some tools breaking things. The one that comes to mind is the view replicator. Just the way it worked, certainly the time that I used it, this is going back a little while ago, it broke a view. So it did something, and basically in the background, it updated some view XML or fetch XML that it shouldn't have been able to. And as a result, the view was then corrupted. But it's because there's no guardrails in the tool itself. It doesn't stop you from doing that sort of thing, but the platform then just kind of breaks it. So I come across a few tools that can be a bit like that. So unless you know exactly what you're doing, so if you would write the code yourself to do the job and you know what it's going to do, then that's fine. But the flip side with these community tools is that documentation and understanding the pitfalls.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why you got someone like Jonas Rapp with his tools, the Fetch XML Builder and all the others, where, I mean, they are streaks ahead of so many other tools. But I think part of that is because he's actively develops it. I cannot believe how many tools he's got, but how many he's updated. Like the Fetch XML builders, that is just, for that alone, people should get the tool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the de facto tool to use, isn't it? It's used by everybody. And I think that's something that I found as well, is that quality of the tools can vary quite a lot. So if you're going to use it, and I do recommend using XRM Toolbox overall, but maybe stick with the more popular tools because they've been battle hardened and developed over time, and they've got great features. I do find the user interface to be a real struggle on some of the tools when you're just like, what do I do? Or has it done anything yet? Or so again, kind of sticking with those more popular tools where they've got a better user experience, I think is a good idea.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because in the video, that was one of the things that came up when I did the update. And then it just suddenly popped up with the solution selection dialog. And I was like, why is it doing this? I kind of knew what it was doing. I knew that it needed me to select it to refresh it again. But at the same time, I was like, well, I don't feel like I need to do this. I'm just going to close it. And then nothing's changed.
That's a real developer user experience. That's a hardcore developer user experience, rather than somebody that has to build stuff for people to use, if you see what I mean. So that takes me back to like my early development days.
Even the green text on the black background, that's the matrix right there. I can tell you the person that wrote that tool probably is of a similar age to probably us. Probably went to see the matrix at a certain age where it had an impact. Cool. Yeah,
but overall, very useful toolkit. And like you say, it's recommended by Microsoft. I came across that yesterday when I was looking through some documentation, and at the bottom it was a recommendation to use one of the tools. I think it was one of Carl Cookson. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I think that was the Flow. Was that the Flow documenter? I have to play with that actually. Because documentation. No one likes documentation. The sooner ChatGPT or similar LLMs can do it for us and we don't have to do any of it, the better.
Yeah, we're not far off, I think.
We're really not. I mean, you can, at this point, in fact, I should try that. I should try feeding solution XML, the customizations XML, into it and just say, tell me what this does. I bet you could do that.
there is a solution like a changes summarizer. When you do a solution now and you export a solution, and it will generate some change notes for you. They're a little bit, yeah, I mean, probably
Is
not the quality that you'd want, but it's having a go. It's looking at the changes that have happened in
is
there.
that from the Paracat team? I think I saw that on
No,
LinkedIn.
no, it's
Ah,
in the product. Yeah.
oh right. No, I have to look into that because I saw there was a Paracat tool that's come out recently.
Right.
I'm sure it was Paracat, which was around a solution checker, like the solution checker, but another tool for validating whether your solution is technically sound and also give you
Right.
insights into what you can do to improve it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
That
saw
sounds
that.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I need to play around with more of those things.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, there's the Copilot Studio stuff it's Copilot Studio tools. I can't remember what it's called. That the PowerCat team do as well. It's Copilot Studio Kit. I've actually got it up in a window right next to me. That's reminded me to look at that. And that was about 4 weeks ago. So yeah, there's some really useful stuff in there as well.
Yeah, that's a really interesting team. They've done a lot of good stuff. However, we have come very close to the end of our show.
Ah,
I know
really?
it's flown by. I do have a little last segment that I like to throw in, which is a quickfire round of questions from
Awesome.
quiz host to, well, no, to live stream host to quiz host. So these are quickfire. I want you to answer quickly. We can
It's not
maybe
my
delve into
strongest
it.
suit. Answering
It's all
quickly.
right. We'll
But
fire
yeah,
right
have a
through.
go.
Nice, straightforward. Well, okay. We start with probably the most interesting one. Favorite Power Platform service?
Copilot Studio.
Oh, interesting. Ah, damn. I wish I
Not
did these at
because
the
it's
beginning.
amazing, but because it's like it's the low code version of all of this amazing AI that's coming out, and so I think it opens it up to so many people, and I have quite a lot of fun using it, other than the frustrations now and again. But yeah,
That it wouldn't be a Microsoft product if there weren't a few frustrations. Favorite conference?
oh, it's like picking your favorite child. I have
Ah,
to
but you
say.
don't host any of them. But you've been to lots of them,
Um,
so I'd be interested to know.
I went to a lot of conferences last year. Dynamics Minds is amazing because it's by the sea, it's warm, it's like 25 degrees, everybody's in shorts, they have great parties in the evening. There's loads of great people there, loads of great sessions. So I'll be at that this year, and that's in May.
Mhm.
I want to choose also Nordic Summit. Unfortunately, I was due to go to that last year and I had to pull out at the last minute. But it's a really well organized conference. It's much smaller than Dynamics Minds, but in the Nordics, which are always amazing and lovely people, great event, really well run. So yeah, I'll
Cool.
be going to that, I hope, this year as well. That's in September, I want to say.
Nice. Excellent. Favorite color?
I'm not sure I have a favorite color anymore.
What's the first color that comes to mind?
I like this shirt, so there you go. It's kind of forest green.
Ah, excellent. Last music you can remember listening to?
Oh man, something my daughter would cringe at me listening to. Um, oh God, I can't remember specifically, but oh no, no, this is going to be really cringe. Is it Dochi? I found a new artist on Instagram
Cool.
last week. I want to say she's called Dochi, but I can't remember exactly. So that's a proper like middle-aged man answer, isn't it? But otherwise, it'd be like Snow Patrol and stuff like that.
It's absolutely fine. I changed. I think initially it was going to be what's your favorite music or song, but it's to me that doesn't make any sense. Like it changes for me. It changes every day.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
idea
Yeah,
of what you
yeah,
can remember is quite an interesting one because it could just be something you heard in the lift, something just random that just
yeah.
rang a bell. Um,
I wanted to share something else, and I can't for the life of me remember the name. But I've been watching more YouTube based because my son is just doesn't watch anything else. But anyway, there's an NPR channel, National Public Radio in the States.
Yep,
Is it NPR?
it is.
They do one, and it's basically concerts like little gigs in a record store, and it's called something like little table something. I don't
Oh, I
know, but
think
they
I've come
have
across that. Yeah.
great artists on there.
Hmm.
It's really kind of, it feels sort of intimate, or even though obviously you're just watching it on TV. It's all like recorded live and everything, and they're great. So they have some great artists. So
Cool.
I will try and find out what that's called.
I'll definitely go in search of that after this. That's why I always like watching something new on YouTube. Podcasts or TV?
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm gonna come back to that question. It's called Tiny Desk, not Tiny Table. NPR Tiny Desk. If you Google that, and there's a YouTube channel all for those. So anyway,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
I
Cool.
probably watch quite a lot
Don't you?
of
There you go.
there you go. I'm not so out of touch. Um, yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm traveling. I don't listen to music generally, like when I'm in the car or something. I'll listen to podcasts because I need something to keep me kind of occupied.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool. Uh, if you had 2 hours with no other responsibility, what would you do?
actually, that is becoming more and more common now because my kids have grown up, and so I, I don't need to spend every waking minute thinking about them. So,
Hmm.
you know what I've been doing recently, and this is a really boring answer. I've been just giving myself the freedom to do exactly what I want to do. Like on a Saturday morning,
Hmm.
recently, I would just do nothing. I was going to say a bad word then, but I would do nothing. And I will sit there and think, like, big a part of my brain will be going, you should be doing something. We've got all these other things
Yeah.
to do. And I just have to, again, switch that off and say, nope, I'm just going to sit here and watch YouTube, watch Tiny Desk, or I'm going to, just do something I want to do.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely share that. I mean, my son he's 6, so I'm still
He's
very
six
much in.
already.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely in the midst of still very much having to entertain and look after him. Although he does have more independence than he has done, so I do
Mm.
find in the evenings he can quite happily just go and play on his own. In fact, this evening he had a massive box because my wife had some furniture delivered, and he was playing in that.
Amazing.
So
Can't beat a box, man.
you cannot
Cardboard
beat a
box.
box.
Yeah.
Oh, the boxes are the best. All right, there's just a few more. I want to go through the lot because I want to do it with everyone eventually.
Okay, I'll try and be quick.
Books or audiobooks?
I grew up loving books. I've got, I don't know, 100 books sort of sitting around. I tend to buy books now and then not read them because I end up listening to the audiobook. I've got something like 250 audiobooks, I want to say, something like that over the years.
Wow.
The single reason I don't cancel my Audible is because I've got so many. Um, but yeah, I love listening to audiobooks when I'm going to sleep or I'm in the middle of the night. I can't go back to sleep. I'll put an audiobook on. So
Nice.
yeah, sometimes in the car as well. But yeah,
Cool. Glass half full or glass half empty?
glass half full. I'm quite optimistic.
Good. We need that in the world. That's a good thing.
For sure.
The classic. If you won £1 million, what would you spend it on?
I've not really ever thought about it, to be honest. Like frivolous or anything.
First thing that comes to mind? What's the first thing when I said that? What was the first thing you thought?
I think I would want to. I'm not sure if I can right now, or if that's enough money, but I think I would stop working and go and just travel for a year at least, maybe 2, 3 years. Yeah.
You could definitely do that. With £1 million, you could stick it in a high interest ISA and
Mm,
just take the 5%. That would give you enough to travel quite a few places. So that's
it's a good idea.
absolutely a valid answer. Cool. Well,
Yeah, I've traveled a lot, but there's just obviously millions more places I want to go to. So yeah, sounds
there's
good.
260 odd countries in the world, so lots to tick off.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. It's been a wonderful,
My pleasure.
wonderful show.
Thank you.
And for you and the audience out there, I will see you again next week. Thank you very much, and
Thanks
good
for having me.
night.